Admiral Du-hyun stood tall on the bridge of the UES Defender, his hands clasped behind his back. The massive view screen before him showed stars and the edge of Earth's atmosphere. His weathered face remained calm, but his eyes burned with a hidden fire. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission. Unknown origin. It's powerful, breaking through all our security measures," called out Communications Officer Jun. Do-hyun nodded once. "Put it through." The screen flickered, and a face appeared. The alien had gray-blue skin, ridge-like features, and eyes that gleamed with arrogance. He wore an elaborate uniform with many medals and symbols of rank. "I am Grand Marshal Taeyang of the Galactic Imperial Fleet," the alien said in perfect English. "I address the leaders of Earth." Do-hyun stepped forward. "I am Admiral Du-hyun of the United Earth Defense Fleet. I speak for Earth in military matters." Taeyang's mouth curved into what might have been a smile. How quaint. A single fleet for an entire world. He seemed amused. "Our scanners have analyzed your vessels. Primitive propulsion, basic weapon systems, minimal shielding. Adorable little toys. Really." The bridge crew tensed. Lieutenant Mina at the weapons station gripped her console so tightly her knuckles turned white. "What do you want, Grand Marshal?" Du-hyun asked, his voice even. "The Galactic Empire spans 10,000 star systems. We bring order, civilization, and protection to all worlds under our care." Taeyang gestured grandly. "Earth will become our newest protectorate. You will enjoy the benefits of imperial technology, medicine, and culture. In return, we require only your complete obedience and a reasonable tribute of resources." Do-hyun's expression didn't change. "And if we refuse?" Taeyang's smile vanished. "That would be unwise. Observe." The screen split to show a small moon orbiting Jupiter. A beam of light shot from somewhere off-screen. The moon shattered into countless pieces. Gasps filled the bridge. Du-hyun's jaw tightened slightly, the only sign that he was affected. "That was merely a demonstration from a single light cruiser," Taeyang said. "My fleet carries enough firepower to reduce your world to molten rock." "I see," said Du-hyun. "You have 30 Earth days to prepare for imperial governance. Dismantle your military. Prepare your leaders to swear loyalty to the Emperor." Taeyang's eyes narrowed. "Any resistance will be met with appropriate force." "Understood. One more thing, Admiral." Taeyang leaned closer to the screen. "Our analysts report your species has only been spacefaring for less than 2 centuries. Most races at your development stage surrender immediately. Those who don't," he shrugged, "well, there are always examples to be made." The screen went dark. For several seconds, silence filled the bridge. Then Du-hyun turned to face his second-in-command. Commander Jae-yun stepped forward, her face grim. "Orders, sir. Send the recording to Earth Central Command. Priority Alpha. Then contact all fleet commanders. Emergency meeting in 1 hour." "Yes, sir." Jae-yun hesitated. "Sir, their technology. That weapon." Do-hyun's eyes met hers, and a small dangerous smile appeared on his lips. "They only see what we want them to see, Commander." Jae-yun understood immediately. A matching smile touched her face. "They have no idea, do they?" "No, and that's our advantage." Do-hyun turned to the bridge crew. "Set course for Luna Base. Maximum speed." As the Defender turned toward Earth's moon, Do-hyun stared at the empty screen where Taeyang's face had been. The Empire had made a critical mistake. They had judged humanity by what their scanners showed them, by humanity's short history among the stars. They should have looked deeper. They should have studied Earth's history, thousands of years of warfare, innovation born from necessity, and a stubborn refusal to surrender even against impossible odds. The Empire thought they were facing primitive newcomers to the galactic stage. They were wrong. The Empire would learn this lesson soon enough. Deep below the red surface of Mars, Chief Engineer Hansol moved quickly through the massive underground facility. Workers and robots hurried around her, carrying parts and tools. The air hummed with energy and purpose. Hansol stopped at a railing and looked down at the enormous chamber below. Hundreds of ships filled the space, not the small, simple vessels that Earth showed to the stars, but sleek, deadly warships with technology no alien eye had ever seen. "How much longer?" asked a voice behind her. Hansol turned to see President Dajung. The leader of the United Earth government looked tired but determined. 3 days for the final modifications, Hansol said. "We're installing the kinetic displacement drives on the last 50 ships now." The president nodded. "The Empire gave us 30 days. They're overconfident." "They should be," Hansol said with a small smile. "Their scanners only see our old fusion engines and basic weapons. They can't detect the displacement tech." They walked together to a large ship in the center of the chamber. Unlike the others, this one had its insides exposed. Technicians swarmed around a glowing blue core. "This is the heart of our advantage," Hansol explained, pointing to the core. "When activated, it bends space-time around the ship. We can move in ways the Empire will think impossible." "And our weapons?" the president asked. "Even better." Hansol picked up a small metal rod from a workbench. "This looks like a simple metal projectile, but when fired through the displacement field, it phases partially out of normal space. No shield in the galaxy can stop it." The president took the rod, feeling its weight. "And you're certain the Empire doesn't have this technology?" "Positive. Our spies in their systems confirm it. The Empire expanded through brute force, not innovation. They haven't faced a real challenge in 1,000 years. An alarm sounded, and both turned to see a screen light up with an incoming message. Commander Jai-Yun's face appeared. "Madam President, Engineer Hansol," Jai-Yun said. "Admiral Du-hyun requests your presence at the Emergency Council meeting. All fleet commanders will attend." "We'll be there," the president said. "Prepare the secure link." 20 minutes later, Hansol sat in the Mars Command Center. Screens showed faces from around the solar system. Military leaders, scientists, and government officials. Admiral Du-hyun's grim face filled the central screen from Luna Base. "The Empire has shown its hand," Du-hyun said. "They expect surrender. Their Grand Marshal Taeyang seems to enjoy humiliating those he conquers." "What's your assessment of their capabilities?" asked General Wu from the Jupiter defense platform. "Their demonstration was impressive but predictable," Du-hyun replied. "They destroyed one of Jupiter's smaller moons with a standard energy weapon. Powerful, but nothing we haven't prepared for." "The question remains," President Dae-jung said. "Do we reveal our true strength now, or wait?" The room fell silent. This was the moment they had planned for since humans first detected alien signals 50 years ago. The moment when humanity would either stand among the stars or fall beneath them. Admiral Du-hyun spoke first. "I recommend Operation Shadow Strike. We show them just enough to make them curious, then spring the full trap when their main fleet arrives." Hansol nodded in agreement. "The displacement drives are ready. The Empire has no defense against what they cannot understand." "Very well," said the president after listening to all views. "The vote is unanimous. Earth will not surrender. We will fight." As the meeting ended, Hansol returned to the shipyard floor. She placed her hand on the hull of the nearest vessel, the UES Defiance. Soon these ships would leave their hidden docks. Soon the Empire would learn that appearances could be deceiving, and humanity would teach them a lesson they would never forget. Captain Sung Min stood before 500 men and women in the main hangar of the Luna Base. His uniform was crisp, his posture straight. Scars marked his face from the Mars Rebellion 10 years ago. He had fought then for human freedom against human enemies. Now he would fight for all humanity against the stars themselves. "Many of you have never seen real combat," he said, his voice carrying across the silent room. "Some of you are afraid. That's good. Fear keeps you sharp." He paused. "But remember this. While we trained, the Empire grew lazy. While we prepared, They forgot what it means to be challenged. Screens around the hangar showed similar gatherings across the solar system. On Mars, on the moons of Jupiter, on asteroid bases and orbital platforms, humanity's defenders listened. In 3 days, the first phase of Operation Shadow Strike begins. We will show the Empire just enough of our strength to make them curious, just enough to make them commit their full forces. Some men's eyes swept across the room. Then we will show them what humans are truly capable of. After the speech, Tactical Officer Yang Ho approached Captain Sung Min. Young and brilliant, Yang Ho had designed many of the battle plans they would soon use. "The crews are ready, sir," Yang Ho said, "but I worry about the timing. If we show too much too soon." "I know." Sung Min nodded. "It's a balance. Show too little, and the Empire attacks Earth directly. Show too much, and they bring reinforcements we can't handle." They walked together through corridors bustling with activity. Crew members rushed to their stations, technicians made final checks on equipment, and medical staff prepared for casualties. "Do you think we can win?" Yang Ho asked quietly. Sung Min stopped at a viewport. Earth hung in the blackness, blue and beautiful. "We have to," he said simply. Meanwhile, on the Imperial scout ship at the edge of the solar system, Grand Marshal Taiyang received reports from his science team. "The humans are moving ships, sir," reported Science Officer Suho. "Small squadrons, mostly near their moon and the Red Planet." "Defensive positions?" Taiyang asked, sounding bored. "That's what's strange, sir. Their movements don't match any defensive pattern in our database." Suho frowned at his screens. "And our deep scans still can't penetrate their larger facilities on the Red Planet." Taiyang waved a dismissive hand. "Primitive shielding, nothing more. What about their weapons?" "Standard chemical propellants, low-grade energy beams. Nothing that could damage an Imperial cruiser." Suho hesitated. "However, we're detecting unusual energy signatures from some vessels. Nothing we can identify." "Experimental technology, no doubt." Taiyang laughed. "Every species makes a last desperate attempt at advancement when they realize how outmatched they are." He stood from his command chair. "Prepare a message to Fleet Command. Tell them Earth will require only minimal forces. This will be a simple conquest." Back on Luna Base, Admiral Du Hyun met with Commander Jai-yun in his private office. A small hologram showed the positions of Earth's real fleet. Hundreds of ships hidden behind moons, inside asteroids, and in the shadow of planets. "The Imperial Scout is watching exactly what we want them to see," Jai-yun said. Do Hyun nodded. "And Engineer Han Sol. The final modifications are complete. All ships are equipped with displacement drives and phase weapons." Do Hyun picked up a small metal cube from his desk, a family heirloom from Earth. "My grandfather fought in the last World War," he said quietly. "He told me that the most dangerous enemy is one who has nothing to lose." He put the cube down. "We are fighting for our home, our families, our very existence. The Empire is fighting for another entry in their conquest records. They've forgotten what real war is like." Jai-yun agreed. "Yes." Du Hyun's eyes hardened. "And we're about to remind them." The Imperial Armada arrived at the edge of the solar system exactly 27 days after their ultimatum. Huge ships filled the darkness of space. Their metal hulls gleamed in the distant sunlight. The largest was the flagship, 7 kilometers long and bristling with weapons. On its command bridge, Grand Marshal Taiyang watched the display with satisfaction. "How many human vessels are tracking us?" he asked. Science Officer Suho checked his screens. 23, sir. Small combat vessels near the gas giant Jupiter. They appear to be watching us, observing their doom," Taiyang said with a smile. "This species shows unusual courage. Most primitive worlds surrender immediately upon seeing our fleet." "Sir, incoming transmission from the humans," called a communications officer. Taiyang straightened his uniform. "Display it." Admiral Du Hyun's face appeared on screen. Grand Marshal Taiyang. I see you've brought quite a force to accept our surrender. Your 30 days are not yet complete, Admiral, Taiyang said. But I'm pleased to see you've come to your senses. Actually, Du Hyun said calmly, I've come to deliver a message. Earth will not surrender. Taiyang's expression hardened. Then you have chosen extinction. Before you make that decision, I suggest you observe a small demonstration of our capabilities. Du Hyun's image disappeared. Taiyang turned to his tactical officer. What is he talking about? Sir, human vessels approaching from Sector 7. The officer shouted. 10 ships on direct course for our forward line. Such foolishness, Taiyang said. Commander Suho, destroy them. Use minimal firepower. I want the humans to see their best efforts fail. Suho grinned as he gave the order. Target locked. Firing main batteries. Brilliant beams of energy lanced out from 3 Imperial cruisers toward the approaching human ships. The bridge crew watched confidently, expecting to see explosions. Instead, the beams passed through empty space. The human ships had vanished. What happened? Taiyang demanded. Where are they? Impossible. Suho stared at his screens. They were there 1 second. Then, sir, human ships behind our first defensive line. The small human squadron had somehow appeared inside the Imperial formation. Before the Imperial ships could respond, the human vessels fired what looked like simple metal projectiles. These strange weapons passed through the Imperial shields as if they weren't there. 3 Imperial cruisers went dark, their power systems failing. How did they penetrate our shields? Taiyang shouted, gripping his command chair. Unknown, sir. Suho's voice shook. Our sensors didn't even register an impact. But something bypassed the shields and damaged the power cores directly. All batteries, open fire. Destroy those ships. Taiyang ordered. The Imperial fleet unleashed a storm of energy weapons. The space around the human ships lit up with deadly fire. But again, the shots hit nothing. The human vessels moved in ways that defied physics, appearing to jump instantly from one position to another. After disabling 2 more Imperial ships, the human squadron regrouped and retreated toward Jupiter, moving at incredible speed. On the command deck of the UES Swift Strike, Captain Sung-min allowed himself a small smile. Phase 1 complete, he said. Return to Formation Alpha. Standard speed until we're out of their sensor range. Tactical Officer Yang-ho looked up from his console. Sir, Imperial vessels are pursuing, but they're falling behind quickly. The look on their faces must be priceless right now. The displacement drives performed perfectly, Sung-min replied. And the phase penetrators worked exactly as Engineer Hansol promised. He opened a channel to Luna Base. Admiral, this is Captain Sung-min. Opening gambit successful. 5 Imperial vessels disabled, 0 casualties on our side. Admiral Du Hyun's voice came through clear. Well done, Captain. Return to base. Phase 2 begins in 6 hours. As the human ships vanished into the shadow of Jupiter, the Imperial fleet hung in space, suddenly uncertain. For the first time in generations, confusion and doubt filled an Imperial commander's mind. The game had begun, and the Empire had just lost its first move. Grand Marshal Taiyang paced the war room of his flagship. His top officers sat around a large table, their faces tense. Holographic displays showed the damaged Imperial ships and the paths the human vessels had taken. 5 cruisers disabled by 10 small human ships. Taiyang said, his voice low with anger. Explain this. Commander Suho stood up. Sir, it must have been a malfunction in our shield systems. There is no way primitive human weapons could. I don't want excuses. Taiyang slammed his fist on the table. I want answers. Science Officer Minji, who had been studying the sensor logs, spoke quietly. The human ships moved in ways our science says is impossible. They appeared to shift through space without traveling the distance between points. What nonsense is this? Suho scoffed. Their ships can't simply disappear and reappear. The evidence suggests otherwise. Min-Ji insisted, pointing to the data. And their weapons didn't trigger our shield alarms because they weren't energy-based. They were physical objects that somehow passed through our shields. Taiyang frowned. Are you suggesting these humans have technology we don't understand? The room fell silent. The idea that a young species could develop something the Empire didn't possess was almost unthinkable. Impossible, Suho finally said. They'd been spacefaring for less than 2 centuries. The Empire has ruled the stars for over 10,000 years. Min-Ji looked down at her datapad. Perhaps we should proceed with caution until... Enough. Taiyang cut her off. This was clearly a lucky strike by the humans. Nothing more. He turned to his tactical officer. Prepare the fleet for standard conquest formation. We will divide our forces to surround their defenses. Sir, Min-Ji tried again. If they can move as my data suggests, splitting our forces could be dangerous. Taiyang's eyes narrowed. Are you questioning my orders, science officer? Min-Ji hesitated, then bowed her head. No, Grand Marshal. Good. Taiyang turned to the display. We attack in 6 hours. The main fleet will approach Earth directly. Battle Group 2 will secure their moon base. Battle Groups 3 and 4 will neutralize their Mars facilities. As the meeting ended, Min-Ji stayed behind, studying the data. Something about these humans troubled her deeply. Their ships had moved in ways that defied the Empire's understanding of physics. Either the humans had discovered something the Empire had missed in 10,000 years of dominance, or she didn't want to finish that thought. Meanwhile, on Luna Base, Admiral Du Hyun and his command staff watched the Imperial fleet through their advanced sensors. They're dividing their forces, Commander Jia-Yun said. Exactly as you predicted. Du Hyun nodded. The Empire has used the same tactics for thousands of years. They've never needed to change because they've never been challenged. Their arrogance makes them predictable, Jia-Yun agreed. Engineer Hansol entered the command center with a data tablet. Admiral, all ships are reporting in. The displacement drives performed beyond expectations in the first engagement. Any issues? Du Hyun asked. Minor power fluctuations in 2 vessels, already fixed, Hansol replied. We've updated the targeting algorithms based on what we learned about Imperial shield frequencies. The phase penetrators will be even more effective now. Du Hyun studied the holographic display showing the positions of all ships, both Imperial and human. Most of the human fleet remained hidden, waiting for the perfect moment. The Empire thinks they're facing a small, desperate defense force, Du Hyun said. They have no idea that we've been preparing for this moment for 50 years. What if they adapt? Jia-Yun asked. What if they discover how our technology works? They won't have time. Du Hyun said grimly. The Empire has grown complacent. They don't expect to be surprised. Their arrogance blinds them to possibilities beyond their understanding. Hansol smiled. And while they're still trying to figure out how we disabled their first ships, we'll show them what humanity is truly capable of. Du Hyun finished. He touched a control, and the display zoomed out to show hundreds of human ships hidden throughout the solar system, a force far larger than the Empire suspected. Prepare all ships, the Admiral ordered. The real battle begins now. Space around Earth lit up as the Imperial battle groups moved into position. Their ships formed perfect lines, a display of power meant to inspire fear. The main fleet approached Earth directly, while other battle groups headed toward the Moon and Mars. Inside the flagship, Grand Marshal Taiyang watched with satisfaction. Begin the attack. Target their defense platforms first. Yes, sir, Commander Suho replied. All ships, commence firing. Energy beams shot from dozens of Imperial vessels toward Earth's orbital defenses. The Imperial gunners expected to see explosions, but instead, their shots hit nothing but empty space. What's happening? Taiyang demanded. Where are their defense platforms? Suho stared at his screens in confusion. They were there a moment ago, sir. They've vanished. Suddenly, alarms blared across the command bridge. Multiple human ships detected. A sensor officer shouted. They're appearing behind Battle Group 3. On his command ship near Mars, Captain Sung-min gave the order. All ships, activate displacement drives. Execute attack pattern Omega. The human fleet, far larger than the Empire had believed possible, seemed to appear out of nowhere. Their vessels blinked in and out of existence, moving in ways that made targeting impossible. One moment they were in front of an Imperial ship, the next moment behind it or beside it. How are they doing this? Suho shouted over the chaos of battle reports pouring in. From his tactical station, Yang Ho directed the human attack with precise commands. Squadron 1, target Imperial cruisers. Squadron 2, disable their communications. Phase penetrators only. We want their ships intact. The human weapons, simple metal rods fired at high speed, passed through the Imperial shields as if they weren't there. Each rod then phased back into normal space inside the Imperial ships, destroying power systems and weapons, but leaving the crews alive. Battle Group 3 reports 60% of vessels disabled, a communications officer told Taeyang. Battle Group 4 is under heavy attack. Impossible. Taeyang slammed his fist on his command console. Order all ships to regroup around the flagship. But his orders came too late. The human vessels had already divided the Imperial fleet into isolated groups. Ships trying to regroup found themselves cut off by human vessels that appeared and disappeared before they could be targeted. On the Imperial flagship, Science Officer Minji worked frantically to understand what was happening. Sir, she called to Taeyang, I believe the humans are manipulating space-time locally. They're not actually moving faster than light. They're bending space around their ships. That's impossible, Suho argued. Even the Empire doesn't have that technology. Because we never needed it, Minji said quietly. We conquered through superior numbers and brute force. We stopped innovating centuries ago. Taeyang ignored their discussion, focusing instead on the battle. Order Battle Group 2 to attack their moon base directly. We need to destroy their command center. The Imperial ships near the moon turned their weapons toward Luna base. They fired a massive barrage of energy beams, only to see them curve away at the last moment, as if space itself was bending around the human base. On Luna base, Admiral Du-hyun watched the battle unfold on his command display. Deploy the defensive displacement field, he ordered calmly. Commander Jae-yun nodded. Field activated. Their weapons cannot reach us. Do-hyun opened a channel to all human ships. This is Admiral Do-hyun. Phase 2 complete. Begin Phase 3. Across the solar system, human ships activated their full combat capabilities. The displacement drives powered up to maximum, allowing vessels to jump instantly across vast distances. The phase penetrators targeted the Imperial ship's key systems with surgical precision. In the command center on Mars, Engineer Hansol monitored the energy readings from the fleet, all systems operating at optimal levels. She reported to Earth Command. The Empire has no defense against our technology. As Imperial ships went dark one by one, Grand Marshal Taeyang faced a reality no Imperial commander had experienced in 1,000 years. Defeat. For the first time in the Empire's long history, they were not the superior force. The humans, with their strange technology and unpredictable tactics, had turned the battle in their favor. And the Empire had no answer. Grand Marshal Taeyang stood in the center of his command bridge, watching as more of his ships went dark on the tactical display. His face showed no emotion, but his eyes burned with rage and disbelief. 3 battle groups disabled. Commander Suho reported, his voice shaking. Only the flagship group remains at full strength. Taeyang's fist clenched. Activate the solar compressor. The command room fell silent. Even Suho looked shocked. Sir, he said carefully, the solar compressor has never been used on an inhabited world. The resulting solar flare would burn away Earth's atmosphere. Billions would die. They have left us no choice, Taiyang hissed. These humans and their technology must be eliminated before other worlds learn of our defeat. Suho hesitated, then nodded. Yes, Grand Marshal. Preparing the solar compressor. In a quiet corner of the bridge, Science Officer Minji listened with horror. The solar compressor was the Empire's most terrible weapon, a device that could trigger a massive flare from a star, directing the energy toward a target planet. Its use on an inhabited world was forbidden by even the Empire's loose standards of warfare. As the other officers focused on preparing the weapon, Minji slipped away to her private terminal. Her hands trembled as she encoded a message and sent it toward Earth on a narrow, hidden frequency. "This is Imperial Science Officer Minji," her message began. "The Empire is preparing to use a solar compressor weapon against your world. You have less than 2 hours before it is deployed. The device works by..." On Luna Base, Commander Jai-Yun burst into Admiral Do-hyun's office with a data tablet. "Sir, we've intercepted an Imperial transmission. It appears to be from someone inside their fleet." Do-hyun read the message quickly, his face growing grim. "Verify this information. Then contact Engineer Hansol immediately." 30 minutes later, the command staff gathered around a holographic display showing the Imperial flagship and a strange device extending from its hull. "The solar compressor is real," Hansol confirmed, studying the scans. "It works by creating a quantum tunnel between our sun and its core, triggering a directed solar flare. Earth's defenses would be useless against it." "Can we destroy it?" Do-hyun asked. "Not easily," Hansol replied. "The flagship's shields are still at full power, and they've surrounded it with their remaining vessels. We need to get past those shields," Jai-Yun said. Hansol thought for a moment, then looked up with a spark in her eyes. "What if we don't need to destroy it? What if we isolate it instead?" "Explain," Do-hyun said. "The displacement drive doesn't just move our ships," Hansol said. "It bends space-time. If we modify it to create a large enough field around the flagship, we could create a temporal bubble," Jai-Yun finished, understanding immediately. "Cut it off from the rest of space." "Can it be done?" Do-hyun asked. Hansol nodded slowly. "Yes, but we'll need to get close, dangerously close, and we'll need our most powerful ships to generate a field that size." Do-hyun stood up straight. "I'll lead the mission myself on the UES Defender." "Sir," Jai-Yun protested, "you're needed here to coordinate." "This is too important to delegate," Do-hyun cut her off. "If we fail, Earth burns. Besides," he added with a small smile, "I've been wanting to see one of these Imperial ships up close." On the Imperial flagship, Taiyang watched as the solar compressor charged. Its power grew, creating a visible distortion in space as it prepared to reach into the sun's core. "Time to activation?" he asked. 45 minutes, sir," Suho replied. "Excellent." Taiyang's mouth curved in a cruel smile. "Soon, these humans will understand the price of defying the Empire." What he didn't see was Minji slipping away from her station, her decision made. She had served the Empire loyally for years, but she could not be part of this genocide. As alarms began to sound across the flagship, announcing the approach of human vessels, Minji headed for the shuttle bay. The final confrontation was about to begin. The UES Defender led a squadron of 12 ships toward the Imperial flagship. Admiral Do-hyun stood on the bridge, watching as the massive enemy vessel grew larger on the view screen. The solar compressor extended from its hull like a giant metal claw reaching for the sun. 30 minutes until the compressor activates, Commander Jai-Yun reported from Luna Base through the comm system. "All ships, prepare displacement fields," Do-hyun ordered. "Remember the plan. We need to surround the flagship completely." The human vessels moved in perfect formation, using their displacement drives to avoid Imperial fire. Energy beams cut through empty space as the human ships blinked in and out of normal spacetime. On the Imperial flagship, alarms blared. Human ships approaching from all sides. Suho shouted. "They're moving too fast to target. Protect the compressor at all costs." Taeyang commanded. "Divert all power to forward shields." "Sir," a junior officer called out. "Shuttle Bay 3 has been breached. Someone has launched a shuttle without authorization." Taeyang barely glanced at the report. "Shoot it down." But the small Imperial shuttle was already speeding away from the flagship, its pilot desperately trying to clear the battle zone. Inside that shuttle, Science Officer Minji clutched the controls. Her heart pounded as she navigated through weapon fire, hoping to reach the human ships. She had made her choice. She could not let billions die for the Empire's pride. The human vessels continued their approach, taking heavy fire but pressing forward. 3 ships were hit and fell back, their displacement drives damaged. But the others pushed on, forming a sphere around the Imperial flagship. "Now," Du-hyun ordered. All at once, the human ships activated their modified displacement drives at maximum power. Space itself seemed to bend and warp around the Imperial flagship. A shimmering bubble of distorted space-time formed, cutting the flagship off from the rest of the fleet. "Temporal bubble stable," reported the Defender's science officer. "The flagship is isolated. They can't communicate with their fleet or activate the compressor from inside the bubble." "Sir," called the sensor officer, "Imperial shuttle approaching. It's broadcasting on an open frequency." "This is Science Officer Minji of the Imperial Fleet," came a voice over the comm. "I seek asylum. I can help you disable the solar compressor permanently." Do-hyun exchanged looks with his bridge crew. "Bring her aboard," he decided, "but with security." Meanwhile, Captain Sung-min led the boarding party that would enter the Imperial flagship. His team included Tactical Officer Yang-ho and 20 elite soldiers equipped with phase armor that let them pass through solid matter. "The temporal bubble will let us board them, but we'll only have 15 minutes before it becomes unstable," Sung-min reminded his team. "Our targets are the bridge and the compressor control room." Using their phase technology, the boarding party passed directly through the Imperial hull. They emerged inside the flagship, weapons ready. Surprised Imperial soldiers had no time to react before the human team stunned them with non-lethal weapons. "This way to the bridge," Yang-ho said, consulting his datapad. 5 levels up. The human team moved quickly through the massive ship, encountering resistance but pushing through with their superior technology. The phase armor let them walk through walls when needed, making it impossible for the Imperial forces to contain them. On the bridge, Grand Marshal Taeyang realized what was happening too late. His flagship was cut off from the fleet, the compressor was inactive, and human soldiers were inside his ship. "How is this possible?" he demanded, even as the doors to the bridge slid open. Captain Sung-min stepped onto the Imperial bridge, his weapon aimed at Taeyang. "Grand Marshal, in the name of Earth and humanity, you are now our prisoner." Taeyang's face twisted with rage and disbelief. "This cannot be. We are the Imperial fleet. We have ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. Times change," Sung-min replied simply. "The Empire's rule ends today." Outside, Admiral Du-hyun watched as human ships secured the remaining Imperial vessels. The battle was over. Earth had won. And the galaxy would never be the same. 1 week after the battle, President Daejung stood before the Galactic Council. The Great Hall was filled with representatives from 100 worlds. Many had traveled for days to witness this historic moment, the first time humans had addressed the Council. "The Empire told us we were primitive," President Daejung said, her voice carrying across the silent chamber. "They judged us by the age of our space program, not by the ingenuity of our minds or the strength of our resolve." The council members murmured among themselves. Most had believed the Empire's initial reports about Earth, a young, primitive world of little importance. Now that same world had defeated an Imperial battle fleet. "Humanity does not seek conquest," the President continued. "We ask only for recognition as equals and the right to determine our own future." At the back of the hall, Admiral Du-hyun stood with Commander Jae-hyun and Engineer Hansol. They wore formal uniforms with new insignia, symbols of Earth's defense fleet, now respected across the galaxy. "I never thought I'd see this day," Jia said quietly. "Humans addressing the Galactic Council as equals, not as subjects." "We earned it," Du Hyun replied, "with courage, innovation, and sacrifice." In another part of the chamber, Captain Sung Min and Tactical Officer Yang Ho watched as representatives from various worlds approached them with curiosity and respect. "They all want to know about our technology," Yang Ho observed. Sung Min nodded. "Everyone wants to know how a primitive world defeated the undefeatable empire." "Will we share it?" Yang Ho asked. "Some of it," Sung Min replied. "The president believes we should form alliances, not build walls." In the science wing of Earth's new embassy, Science Officer Minji worked alongside Engineer Hansol. Data screens around them displayed the inner workings of displacement drive technology. "Your insight into Imperial shield systems has been invaluable," Hansol told Minji. "The improved phase penetrators will protect Earth for generations." Minji looked up from her work. "I still can't believe how quickly humans developed this technology. The Empire had 10,000 years and never thought to bend spacetime this way." "That's the difference," Hansol said. "The Empire stopped looking for new solutions because they never faced real challenges. Humans never stopped asking, 'What if?'" In a secure room nearby, Grand Marshal Taeyang sat across from Admiral Do Hyun. The once proud Imperial commander now wore simple clothes, his elaborate uniform gone. "What happens to me now?" Taeyang asked. "You'll stand trial for war crimes," Do Hyun replied, "but not for losing the battle. The Empire must learn that might doesn't make right." Taeyang looked confused. "Why didn't you simply destroy us when you had the chance? That's what the Empire would have done." "That's why we won," Do Hyun said simply. "Because we are not like you." 3 months later, the UES Explorer, Earth's first true starship, prepared to leave the solar system. Captain Sung Min stood on the bridge, looking at his crew, humans, and several aliens who had requested to join Earth's space program. "Our mission is exploration, not conquest," he reminded them. "We will visit worlds that no human has seen before, make contacts, build relationships, and learn." As the Explorer's engines hummed to life, President Daejung's voice came through on the comm system. "Captain Sung Min, you carry with you the hopes and dreams of all humanity. Show the galaxy who we truly are." The great ship moved away from Earth, its displacement drive ready to take it farther than any human had traveled before. On one of the observation decks, Yang Ho stood with Minji, watching as their homeworld grew smaller. "Do you think the Empire will try to fight us again?" Minji asked. "Perhaps," Yang Ho replied. "But they'll think twice about laughing at our fleet." Minji smiled. "They certainly will." The Explorer reached the edge of the solar system and activated its main drive. In a flash of bent light and twisted space, it vanished into the depths of the galaxy, humanity's first step into a much larger universe that would never underestimate them again.